Hey, all, Tom Moran here from Tom's Big Spiders. This episode, we're going to be rehousing a couple Magellomorphs, not to be confused with tarantulas. They're not tarantulas. They're not true spiders. They're kind of in the middle, but they have the longevity more in line with the tarantula. So first, we're going to be doing Atypoides reversi, or the turret spider, and then we're going to do Cyclocosmia truncata, or the Ravine Trapdoor Spider. Now, I had a two C truncata several years ago. Unfortunately, when we got the footage, my son was recording, it didn't come out good. So this is kind of my do-over where I get to show these guys off, and they are amazing spiders. Now, you don't see them all that often, and I've heard some folks complain that that's the problem with trapdoor spiders. You put them in some dirt, and you're staring at dirt for quite some time, but when you do see them, it makes it well worth the wait. Now, as you'll see when we get into this video, the A. reversi, or the what's supposed to be a turret spider, did not build a turret. It actually built a wafer trapdoor, much like the Ravine Trapdoor Spider, which is kind of cool. But we're going to get these guys out of their old enclosures into new ones and get some good images of them before they dig down, create their burrows, and I probably never see them again. So enough of me talking. Let's take a look at the rehousing of a couple trapdoor spiders. All right, this one's been a very long time coming. I was actually embarrassed when I looked up to find out the date when we purchased them. We got these guys back in March of 2022. What we have here is Cyclocosmia truncata, or the Ravine Trapdoor Spider, often mislabeled as the Chinese hourglass spider. That's actually a different species. That's Cyclocosmia letusicata, I think. And then we have the turret spider here, also known as scientific name, Atypoides reversi. These guys are from California. These are both species from North America. So this one's not to be confused with the Chinese variant, which is very similar. But we got these from Caleb Hill, who I believe still does the arachnids for Jabberwock Reptiles. He was awesome. We met him and we brought him home, and I had every intention of doing a video on them and rehousing them, but they were so already set up in these containers. They had already webbed the inside of their burrows. They had their little trapdoors, and I felt bad taking them out. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let them settle in, eat a few times. Well, years went on. Now we're over 2 years from when we purchased them. It's time to put them into new enclosures, give them some room. This is probably where they'll spend the rest of their lives. But really excited to have these guys. Although I will say with these two species, they are very, very elusive, very, very shy. I've caught this one kind of hunting twice, where it just basically came up, grabbed the thing, came back in so quickly that I didn't get any real footage. The turret spider, I actually did catch out a couple times. Now, a note about the turret spider. The reason they have the name turret spider is they usually like to settle on slopes, and they take the debris that's around and they build these little turrets out of the webbing and debris. Now, unfortunately, because this is in a vial, there really wasn't the right setup for it, and there wasn't any debris that it could use in there, like leaf litter or moss. So what it did instead is, much like the Ravine Trapdoor Spider, it built a little wafer trapdoor lid out of webbing. So that's right in here. You can see the little web trapdoor. The spider is down the tunnel. We're not going to be able, I tried before we started shooting this. I got my flashlight out. I got the camera. I tried everything to see down inside the hole so you can see the spider in there, and to no avail. It just isn't working. So that one's going to get rehoused into this container here, which is one of the 2-quart mainstay containers. And what we have for a substrate here is a mixture of cocoa fiber, peat, a little bit of sand, some vermiculite to help maintain the moisture. I've created a bit of a slope here. Now, obviously in the wild, it'd be on if you see where they live, they're big slopes. So we'll give it a little bit of slope here. I gave it a starter burrow. The substrate is moist all the way through. We'll let the top dry out a little bit, leave the bottom moist because they do like moist areas. And then we have lots of nice little leaves here, leaf litter, some New Zealand sphagnum moss for hopefully a construction of a turret. And that's why I left a little space up top so it could turret it up. And then for the truncata, Cyclocosmia truncata, similar, obviously same exact container, the mainstay container, a little bit more substrate, drier at the top, moist at the bottom. That usually encourages them to dig more quickly. I did put a little bit of leaf litter in here just in case I wanted to use it to make its trap door. And then I have a starter burrow. Hopefully what will end up happening is it'll go right down in there. Its little booty will be right up in here. Maybe we'll get some shots of that. And then it'll create its new trapdoor and start hunting. So really excited. Well, okay. Part of me is excited to get these guys out. Part of me has been trying to figure out how I'm going to get them out of these containers that they've been in for quite some time. I'm assuming they were in there for a little while before I purchased them, and now they've been in there for over 2 years, so probably 2.5 years in these containers. So what we're going to try to do is get them out and about, get some shots of them. This will be the one time I disturb them. Again, I do feel bad about this because they're so nice and cozy in their little burrows, but I do want to give them something that offers them a bit more space, and I would like to see the turret spider do some webbing up top. Since I've had this one, I've been convinced on 2 different occasions that it was dead because I've seen no activity, no turreting. I didn't even know it had a trap door. I thought the thing just buried and died. And then one day I went and fed it. So I pop out the trap door. I was really excited. Now, hopefully we get it into here. We'll see some of that turret action. I'll be able to get some better footage of it running. So maybe we'll start with that one first. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to carefully clean out the substrate here and get the spider out in the open. And if this takes as long as I think it may, what we'll probably do is I'll fast forward the footage because nobody wants, back in the day, Billy and I used to record these videos where we dig out the fossorial species. And I went back and watched one. I forget which species it was. It might have been an H. gigas. And I think we dug for like 25 minutes. It was the most boring video ever. And I remember people coming on and going, we'd rather just see the spider. And I'm like, well, I'm showing you how to dig them out. But I just know whenever you dig a spider out, be careful, take your time, don't use anything that could harm the spider. It's a painstaking process if you do it correctly. And the good news is because we're able to identify where the burrow is, which is here, I should be able to start on this side and start cleaning out some of the dirt and hopefully get this bad boy out, or bad girl. I'm assuming it's a girl. All right. I'm almost hoping she just bursts from the container.
Yeah, no.
Well, no, it would just make it easier because I hate this gets so boring. No, and I got to be very careful. I think her burrow, by the looks of when I peered down, it goes straight down. But just in case it veers off to the side, I don't think they do chambers normally. And this one looked like it was a little more like the truncatas I had. So fun fact, and maybe I'll flash this up while I'm doing some digging. I got truncatas, oh God, it was, I think, 2016. And Billy wasn't home when I got him. And this was back in the old days where I'd often use my kids to record my videos. And my son, Rowan, I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor and help me record this? I just want to show the spider off. And the camera was bouncing all over the place. It wasn't Rowan's fault. He was, what, 12 at the time, really young. And the problem was that was the only video I've ever had to date that kind of went semi-viral, where all of a sudden I was getting all these views and comments. Everybody thought it was a Chinese hourglass spider. And every single comment, well, not every single comment, but it started to feel like every single comment on it was, get a tripod, steady it up. I didn't think anybody was really going to see this. I didn't have a particularly large audience at the time. And I didn't think anybody was really going to be that interested in it, but live and learn. So this is kind of my redo because we're going to get to hopefully show that one off again, and Billy will be in charge, so we'll have some good footage. Oh, man. Now, I was worried that this was drying out, but the substrate in the bottom is definitely quite moist. Now, the problem is when you have one in one of these vials for so long, this is a heads up to anybody that has species that they keep in these vials, the substrate settles to the point where it really kind of adheres to the side of it, and it's tough getting it out. And that's what we're running into here. Wait for a little spider to come dropping out in a minute. All right, there's so the spider is in here. Look how nice and rich and black that is. So the spider is in this tunnel here. And what I'm going to do is very carefully try to coax it out so we can get some images of it. Now, again, I don't like doing photo shoots with spiders, and I do feel badly, especially in a situation like this. Like you can see there is its home right there. There is the webbed den that is created. It's got the little wafer on the top. Hopefully this is coming in. I'll get a flashlight on it. And there she is right in there. Yeah, she's like, leave me alone. There's the wafer. You can see the webbing. There's the tunnel completely webbed up. And then this would be in the dirt. Something comes by, pops up, grabs it, goes in, eats.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, this is kind of nice so you get to see what it looks like. But she's not going to want to leave this. And there is a little tunnel off the side right there. This is very interesting. This will be, I don't know if the truncata will do the same thing, but now, how do we get her? This is really, what you can't feel right now is how solid this is. Like, that's thick webbing. So they must just keep going over it. So now I got to figure out how to get her out of here. Let me see if I can tear it without smooshing the spider.
That's amazing.
It is so thick. All right, see her. I'm going to try to coax her out of this here. Oh my
Man
God.
alive.
I love the, all right, so let's close this.
She's so shiny.
Look at that. I love the looks of it. There we go. What a, look at that little, and the funny part is, I'll be completely honest, because she acted exactly like the truncata, there was a point where I'm like, this is just a truncata. And finally, I caught her out once. She hunted, she came around, and I saw that big. If you notice, the abdomen isn't truncated. When you see the truncata, the abdomen is actually truncated. It's like somebody cut the back off, and then there's this like Oreo pattern on the back of it. But this one here, you can see completely round abdomen. Gorgeous little girl. Probably about, what would you say, about an inch and a quarter?
Yeah, that's probably all right.
Wonder if I could just pick this webbing up with her on it and drop it in, because that's the other thing I was trying to figure out how I'm going to get in here. Now I see how small she is. I don't know if this, I'm going to close up this burrow just slightly. I'll get nice and close to her, feel free. What a beauty. I just saw an isopod.
Yeah, I did too.
No, I don't see it. Definitely an isopod, though, right? I'll have to watch it when I replay it. All right, let's see if we can get her safely into here.
Even without the flashlight, you can see her.
All right, good. I can never tell. And because this is probably the last time we'll ever see these again, I want to make sure I got some good footage of it. All right, so let's do this.
Oh,
that's adorable.
She's so cute.
I wonder if I'm going to leave this in here just in the side. Maybe she'll be able to use it. All right, and there she is.
Do they use a water dish?
No. Okay. This one you just have to keep it moist. So what I will do afterwards, and this is just a tip, you want to keep the bottom, like with anything, like even with tarantulas, you want to make sure the bottom layers stay moist on these guys. So what I will do is if she uses that as her burrow, and I'm sure she's up there, I will locate where the trap door is, and then I will take usually I use the back of a paintbrush and put some furrows in the side so when I dump water in, I can basically tilt this, pour some water down, it goes down, soaks through the bottom, keeps the top relatively dry. All right. Now, this is the one I'm dying to get some images of. Now, if you notice here, I did go ahead and put some dry stuff on top. So this is drier, but if you look on the side, dry stuff only goes down about an inch. The rest of it's all moist. And same thing. Once I know she's in there, then I'll be able to put the furrows down the side, be able to add moisture. All right. Part 2. So excited we finally got to see her. I'm going to try to find, I do have footage of that one, the turret spider hunting, but I have to dig it up. It wasn't quite good enough to post on its own because it was so quick, but I did get a shot of her. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to flash up some footage I got of her. It's not good at all, but I was able to look down the tunnel. What they do is they have this truncated tunnel with that weird cryptic pattern on it. And when they're disturbed or when they're threatened, they go down the tunnel and they jam up the tunnel with that abdomen. So all you'll see is that little thing. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see it right now. So let's get, last time I rehoused one of these, they kind of scrunched up in like a death curl, and it was so sad. Maybe we'll get to see what this one's web area looks like too. And these guys, I've heard originally that they were on like streamed, like around streams where there's, again, a slope. They like the moisture. Did some more reading up on them. They've found them in areas where they're in like ravines where it's like down the bottom, but they find a flat area to usually make their burrows. So I did give this one a flat area in here as opposed to a slope. All right. The tedious part of keeping spiders. I'm going to check down the hole in a minute, I think. Boom. All right, same thing we did with the other. Oh, again, nice. This is really thick. And this one, I'm pretty certain will not come bursting out of here because they are very shy when they're getting dug up. Getting close to the spider, so let's just switch this. Now, let me try to tear this one open. No, there it is. Before she gets any more disturbed, let's get a look at that booty. I'll get the flashlight. You can see that pattern. Now, this, when was it? About maybe 10 years ago or something, there was all this stuff out there about this Chinese hourglass spider. And everybody was freaking out about it. And I'll be completely honest, I saw pictures of it online. It had to be a while ago because I think it was at my first teaching job when I saw it. And I'm like, how does something like that exist? It's just such an ornate pattern and such a weird look to have that truncated abdomen and that pattern on it. And then I think when I posted up my original videos with my first of these species, a lot of people had heard about this and thought it was that trapdoor, the Chinese trapdoor spider. Very similar, looks almost exactly the same, but I believe the patterns on the abdomen are slightly different. Oh my gosh. See them all scrunched up? All right, so let me get some light for you. Now, again, that shiny appearance to them. Look at that. Let's see if I can get the abdomen to show up. I want to get
Right.
Whoop. What? Oh.
It's showing up. We're talking about the pattern on the back.
There it is. You can see right in there. It looks like a little acorn almost. But they use that. They'll dig that hole. They'll scrunch all up and they'll plug the hole with that abdomen there. Let me see if I can get a... Oh, I'm going to try to hold this steady. There it is. All right, so let's get this one into her new home. Really kind of wanted her to go boogieing so we could get some better shots. But
Super calm.
yeah, they're not overly defensive. I've heard somebody, I forget what it was, I watched a video and somebody was like freaking out that it was going to be all nasty. They're not nasty spiders at all. Famous last words. All right, let's get her in. What a beauty. There she is. Looking quite healthy. Let's see if I can guide her towards that hole. Nah, we're just going to leave her for now. Beautiful spider. Now, unfortunately, this will probably be the last time I ever see her again, but hey, that's the fun of keeping trapdoors. When you do see them, it's amazing. So as far as temperatures are concerned, these guys usually come from, I know that specifically the truncatas come from areas where it's usually shaded. So they're not necessarily exposed to a lot of heat. Plus they go down in their dens. So room temperature is fine. My first set were kept when my temperatures in my tarantula room were sometimes would drop down to the high 60s in the wintertime. Right now it is like 73 during the winter, right above temperature here is set at 73. Sometimes drops lower than that. And then in the summertime, it's usually 80 to possibly 85. Feeding, heads up on the feeding with these. You know, if you need, yeah, get some good footage of it. Are you getting enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Heads up with the feeding with these guys. Don't overfeed them. The one thing I've found is that my gallomorphs in particular, they are long-lived spiders. They are not true spiders. They're like primitive spiders. They live a lot longer than your normal true spiders. So I believe that the Ravine Trapdoor Spiders, the truncatas, are known to live 10 to 15 years or possibly even more. The Atypoides reversi, the turret spiders, the males can take 9 years to reach maturity. So those are long-lived spiders. But the trick to that is to remember in the wild, they're not going to have constant food. They're going to have periods where they don't get a lot of food, where something just happens to go by, maybe they miss it. So don't overfeed them. That's one thing I've noticed, and one thing that I've kind of been irresponsible about is feeding them too much because they're fun to feed and that's the only time you catch them out. These guys I've been feeding like once a month, and keep in mind I have a hard time getting them to eat on camera because they're so shy. They will also ignore larger prey. So if you put a couple times when I was feeding these guys with smaller red runner roaches or smaller crickets, if I put something in that was too big, they just wouldn't go at it. They wouldn't even try. And sometimes they'd be in there for a few days. I take it out, I drop in something smaller, come back an hour later, it'd be gone. So heads up, if you're feeding them, try smaller prey. I've had people ask, can you use mealworms for it? I wouldn't, because the mealworms generally, either you're going to pre-kill it before you put it in, which isn't going to trigger the response, or it's going to burrow down, and if it doesn't end up with the spider, it's not going to get it. So usually something that's a little bit active, they'll come out, grab it, go right back into the burrow. So what we will do is, obviously, I will do an update on these guys when the time comes to be able to show what they've done, if they've created the trapdoor. Hopefully we get that turret from the turret spider. I'd really love to see the turret, but we'll have to see how it goes. Maybe she spent so long without a turret, she doesn't do it, but I'm thinking with the stuff I put in here, Billy wants to back up. I'm thinking with all this stuff here, she'll come out at night, start pulling it in, and we'll have a nice little turret going up the side. And then we can get some good footage of her, because this is the one I've caught feeding more than the other one. So there we go. Cyclocosmia truncata, Atypoides. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's going to be one I cringe later on. Atypoides reversi, the turret spider. Two awesome mygalomorphs. Glad to finally get them into larger homes. This is probably where this is where they'll stay until they finally pass from old age, but really excited to see what they do with this. So after we finished recording and I was editing, I went back to check on the C truncata, see if I get some better pictures of it, and I could. I'm so excited. Billy got some amazing shots, don't get me wrong, but we're really struggling to get a really good view of that butt. So I have this playing now so that you can see that pattern is just amazing, and whoever described it as looking like kind of like an Oreo, I can definitely see that. But that's what attracted me to these guys years ago. I think that's what captivated so many people when news came out about this Chinese hourglass spider. Everybody freaked out because it just doesn't make sense when you look at it. I do guess there's a type of ant that does a similar thing where it has a bottom just like this, an abdomen that's kind of truncated, and it uses it in defense. But it's just such a cool thing to see that this just naturally evolved in Mother Nature. Now, a couple things I just want to make very clear, and I know I mentioned in the video, but just to make sure everybody's totally clear on them. Number one, I have noticed these guys will not take down the larger prey. This is important because I have dropped in larger prey items with them before, left it in there. The prey items can't really get to them, so I don't worry about leaving them in there for a little while. They won't take it. I take the larger prey item out. I would drop in something much, much smaller. It was gone within a couple hours. So that's something to note. So if you have one of these and you're feeding it larger prey items and you notice it's not eating, it might not be in pre-molt. It might just not want to expend that energy trying to take down something that it might be a little wary of or think that might be a little bit too big for it. The other thing is molts. I have yet to see a molt for one of these guys. I don't know what they do with them. I have to go through the stuff that I took out of those vials to see if I can find something, because I'm pretty sure they've molted a couple times. I know when I saw the turret spider way back in the day, it was a bit smaller, so I'm assuming they molted, but I never see their molt. So unlike tarantulas that sometimes will bury themselves and then they'll throw their molt out so you can go, oh good, they're ready to eat, I don't see that with these guys. So the best thing you can do is just drop a little prey item in there. If it's gone the next morning, you know they're eating. If it's not, they might not be. Although again, because of the fact they have those trapdoors, the prey items don't usually get into the trapdoors, so there's not a risk of leaving a prey item in there. So that's just a little tip for people who want to keep these guys, because it can be a little stressful to have that pot of dirt. You're not seeing the spider. You're not sometimes even seeing the trap door, and you're dropping food and it's not disappearing. That's something to consider. So you guys all know the drill. For people that watch it, that's where you can subscribe to the channel. I'm going to put some other videos over here for people that want to check them out. If you take the time to comment, I'll take the time to respond. Just know that it can take me a couple days because I tend to get a lot of comments and get busy. Guys, stay safe. Catch you all next time.